Hi guys, so we've got 96 exit race coming up. I see in chat there's a couple people who are disappointed that they missed the Lion King run, but don't worry, this run will be just as good. So we'll be getting going in a minute, but to begin with, I'll just say that both of these guys have held the world record for this category at previous times in the past. Louis holds the current world record. So they've both got brilliant PBs, both in top 5. Louis' PB at the moment is a 121.57. It's the only 121. Akisto has a 122.38, both of which are amazing times. So we should have a good race. So they'll be getting started soon. Meanwhile, I'll just mention that you'll notice that these guys are both on the Japanese version of the game, and there's no major gameplay differences between the Japanese and the US versions of the game. Most of the differences are pretty minor, but the Japanese version for this category is faster by just over 20 seconds, because switch palaces fade out about 3 seconds quicker, and the text boxes for the save options fade in and fade out just a very short, like about a fifth of a second faster. So all of that adds up to about 20 seconds over the run. But other than that, there's no big difference between the versions. And we should be getting going in a second. And we're off. So yeah, as I said, they're both on the Japanese versions of the game, but you know, there's nothing you need to read. It's just the level names and whether you want to save or not. But the Japanese version is very slightly faster. And World 1 is pretty standard. It's just hold right and jump. Kind of gets you a feel for the controls of the game. You know, there's just not a whole lot to talk about. You'll notice that they both skipped the midway tape, which would have given them a power-up. And they're doing that on purpose throughout World 1. The very start of Castle 1 is a bit quicker and easier if you are small. And so they'll grab the midway in Castle 1 to get big. But until then, they'll be small. So any hits they would take would be a death. But World 1's fairly simple. Oh, Akisto taking a death at the start of YI3 there. That's unfortunate. But you'll notice that they're gonna try and run on these brown wooden platforms as long as possible. And that's because they move to the right when Mario's standing on them, or from the top they'll move to the right, and that pushes him forwards very slightly. So if you land on them as soon as possible and jump off of them as late as possible, you can save up to 3 frames. And you'll see that Louis' in-game time at the top is a 2:59. If they're completing a level and you hear me refer to numbers, it'll be the game time. You would only get a 2:58 if you didn't run on those brown platforms enough. It's not a major difference, but it does push you over the game second. And there's a few different jumping patterns that you can do in this level. We'll see if... Okay, Louis went for a shell jump there, but didn't quite get it. We'll see if Akisto gets it. You have to do a left-right, which you have to hold... Oh, so Akisto stomped on the shell to save a bit of lag. What Louis was going for was the shell jump, where you hit left for up to 3 frames, hit right again, let go of the shell, and then you'll bounce off of it so you don't land in the water. That saves about a fifth of a second, I believe. Fifth to a third of a second. So that first jump there that Louis did under the Koopa, and the jump that he's just done there under that other green Koopa, The first one's a lot easier, but still possible big, and you can push it a bit further. You know, you can get a bit closer if you're small on the second one, so you get a bit more distance on it. They're trying to spend as little time on the fences as possible because they're slow. And like I said, they're both getting their power-ups here. So throughout most of the run, they'll be having the cape power-up, because when you're moving in this game, your speed oscillates between different values, and the highest cape speed is faster than the highest running speed. And when you're flying, you can try to manipulate what that value is by tapping right. So they'll be trying to manipulate to the fastest possible flight speed, which is 51 subpixels per frame. The fastest running speed is 49, but when you're running, it oscillates between 5 values. When you're flying, it's locked unless you're tapping right. They'll be getting the cape at the start of the next level. So if one of them were to fly throughout a whole level with the fastest speed, and one of them were to fly with the lowest speed, that alone can make up a few seconds. So they have to check how quickly the screen is jittering to try and figure out what their flight speed is. And then adjust it accordingly. So World 2, there's not a whole lot of stuff to do. I believe Akisto does a different route to Louis. I think he still does his own route. We'll see in a bit. So one little tip for if you're playing this game, when you're swimming, if you hold down and your swims will be much smaller, so it's a lot easier to control Mario's swimming if you're holding down, and then just hold up when you want to swim up quicker. You see, Louis took that shell there. For whatever reason, you swim about twice as fast when you're holding an item in this game because physics. So it's worth it to go into that pipe to grab that shell for the rest of the level. And Louis switched to the P switch because that can't get destroyed if you were to run into an enemy. Yeah, the cape is pretty broken in what you can do with it. Same with Yoshi. So this ghost house that Louis in now, you could do either exit. It doesn't really matter much, but we're gonna just clear up this one out of the way first. The level that this unlocks is more of a bonus level. It has a bunch of different power-ups in there, and it doesn't really have a thing that you can complete, so that's why they won't be going in there. You'll see that Louis will unlock top secret area. Like I say, you can't complete it, so he'll just go back and do the other levels of this. You'll notice that some of the levels have yellow dots and some of them have red dots. The ones with red dots have 2 ways to complete, and that's what this category is. 96 exit is completing every level, and the ones that you can do in 2 ways, you do both ways. We call the extra exit a secret exit, and there's 96 in total. All but 2 of the ghost houses have 2 exits as well, but there's no way to visually see that on the overworld. But yeah, it's essentially 100%. There are reasons that we don't call it that, but I'm not going to get into that now. Lou got a 2:57 on the game time there. That's a pretty good time for that level. You have to manage your cape spin frame rule going through this level, because you can screw up hitting enemies and lose your shell or get hit if you don't manage it properly. Ghost House here is more difficult than it seems at first. Seeing Louis go through there pretty damn well. And this Big Boo boss fight is the exact same pattern every time, so you always know where he's going to be, so it's not difficult to get a frame-perfect boss fight. And 3 hits and he's dead. Akisto not far behind. So World 2, they'll be leaving half of it uncompleted, because once you go through Special World, it puts you back to the start of the game. You go back to Yoshi's house in World 1, and on their way back through to getting the rest of the levels done, they'll finish up the other half of World 2, and that's mainly just routing differences. The reason they didn't go through Yellow Switch at the start of the run is for the same reason. You get walked back to World 1 and they'll do it on the second half, on the second pass through, because, as I said, it's faster to fly, and at the start of the game you don't have cape. And World 2 is where the majority of the flyover levels, as we'd call them, are, really. Once we get into World 3, it'll be a lot more interesting. But like I say, it's, you know, even when they are just flying over the whole level, like with this ice level, it's still not trivial. They have to manage their flight speeds to try and manipulate it into the fastest possible one, which is far from trivial. There's quite a few good runners who, you know, find it difficult to tell what exact flight speed they have. So Louis actually entered his cape flight, like the cape pumping phase, earlier than he could have. If he just held down the jump button, he would have gone above the clouds. And the reason he let go earlier to get into this cape flight thing is because it's only once you're in this cape pumping phase that you lock into those faster flight speeds. So he gave himself the opportunity to get into those faster flight speeds just a half second or so before Akisto did, because Akisto went above the clouds. It's not a major difference, but it's a small one that can build up throughout the levels. It doesn't matter what height they end the level now. It's the fade out still takes the same amount of time whether you're in the air or on the ground. And in Donut Plains 4, they'll be grabbing Yoshi here, and that's for a couple of glitches at the start of World 3. In general, it is slower to have Yoshi, because even when you're flying like Louis is now with Yoshi, you still only have your running speeds. So if you don't need Yoshi, you really want to be flying instead. But it is worth it to keep him through the last half of this level, because it saves a heck of a lot of time at the start of World 2 to have them. Yoshi doesn't enter castles though, so it's exactly the same here. We'll see, they'll fly up into this bonus room at the top here, which until I started speedrunning this game I didn't even know existed. You can just go back into the pipe you came from, and it would take you to the same place as if you'd... Well, no, actually, they skip a room by going into that bonus room. If they'd gone to the end of the first room, they'd have had to do an extra room before getting to this one. And this vertical room is a lot more difficult to keep your flight than it appears. They have to keep on swinging out to the side to make sure that their P meter, which works basically the same way as in SMB3, it's just that it's invisible in this game. They need to have his running speed at the max to be able to get that big liftoff. And if they were to cut the corners as quickly as they could, then they would not keep that flight meter. And 2 fireballs and a stomp is an easy way to kill those guys. Otherwise you'd have to do, I think, 12 fireballs or 3 stomps. 2 fireballs and a stomp is just quicker. Now, I'm going to explain what's happening at the start of the next level now, because it's quite a lot going on pretty quickly. So you'll see that they're both going to try and grab a Buzzy Beetle, and if you throw it up on the right frame, you can duplicate blocks. Now, if he duplicates a block over the bottom half of a dragon coin and then collects the top half, it turns the bottom half of the dragon coin into a key block. And if he then duplicates that key block to the right, it will create Yoshi wings, which beat the game instantly. Beat the level instantly, sorry, not the whole game. That'd be a pretty short speedrun. They're pretty good wings from Louis. The item that the dragon coin turns into depends on its X value on the screen, so that's why they have to duplicate it to the right. It just happens that in this level the dragon coin would be a key, so they have to duplicate it again. Louis clipped into that perfectly there. That's another reason that Yoshi is overpowered. Like, Yoshi is just below the corner, Mario's just to the right of the corner, but is still close enough that he can get on Yoshi, and he goes into, like, just latches onto the corner there. And then you can... Okay, Akisto having a bit of trouble. Yeah, you can just go through the wall and skip a bunch of the level. Oh, Akisto losing Yoshi there, so we're gonna see how the level is intended. So he's having to make this big detour that Louis didn't have to make. And now we'll see Louis come in and do the normal exit for this level. So Akisto's just going to grab the key now. This is where Louis clipped through to. And because we don't have Yoshi, we can't clip through, but he wouldn't really be a big help to do that anyway. For the normal exit, we need to go through the whole level. So Akisto got flight just before he went into the pipe there, and his flight meter carried over so he could get flight instantly on the next room, rather than having to build up his speed. When you take off, a timer counts down from 80 frames, and as long as that is non-zero when you're falling, you will enter the flight state. And that's how that works. It also carries over through doors. So Louis entering one of the ghost houses that only has one exit here. And this is where it looks like Akisto is moving over, doing a different route, so it'll be a while until we can see them synced up again. See exactly how far apart they are. Because Akisto is going up to do the top bridge of World 4. So again, with this level that Akisto's in, there's a lot of managing your flight meter properly. That guy can throw stuff at you if you get him on a bad global timer. The route that Louis is on is a bit quicker. If Akisto is doing the route I believe he is, it's to get to Forest of Illusion quicker. And that it is slower, Akisto's route, but it gets a lot of the luck-based elements out of the way quicker, and so it's, it can be nicer for grinds. As far as I know, Akisto's the only high-end player that does this route. Most people do the route that Louis is on, because it's the fastest route. But there's not a big difference in time. Like I say, Akisto did have the world record at some point with this route. Louis has the current world record. And what Louis is going to be going here for, hopefully, is what we call raft skip. Okay, no. I said hopefully because it would have been cool to see, but it's a bit risky for a race. So he's just taking the normal strat there. Skipping the last half of the raft, it is possible to skip the first half as well, but it's pretty precise, and if you mess it up, you'll pretty much always die. So Vanilla Dome 3 is one level that a lot of people like to get to quickly, and because it's it can be a reset heavy point sometimes. I'm going to be focusing more on Louis for now, because the path that Akisto is on, there's not a whole lot to talk about. There's a lot of flying over and then a 2-minute auto-scroller. The bullet bills in the level Louis is on at the moment, they can have bad patterns sometimes. It's not RNG, I believe it's based on the global timer, so it can be unpredictable. But Louis spent, he was holding left a short bit of time at the start of the level, and that tends to put them into a place where they're not really good, like none of the patterns will really get you. If you were to just keep running right at the start of the level, while sure, get a good pattern and it'll be a tiny bit quicker, it's not really worth it, because a lot of the time a bullet bill will just fly at you and you'll get knocked off Yoshi and it'll cost a bunch of time. Now, you saw Magikoopa there at the start of the level. Because Louis spun his cape, Magikoopa didn't spawn in his face. Magikoopa's spawns are based on RNG and the screen's position. So spinning his cape manipulated the screen's position and he was out of the way. If you were to just run right at the start of Castle 3, Magikoopa will always spawn in your path. And there's a couple of cycle skips that you can do in this room that Louis is in now. For the most part, though, it's essentially an auto-scroller. 96 exit is basically 100%. It's complete every level in every possible way. Some levels have a normal exit and a secret exit. In this category, we do both. And Akisto, took damage there, so he'll want to grab that Fire Flower. Fighting the first of the Resnors. Their fireballs are actually only the same. The hitbox of their fireballs are only the same size as Mario's fireball. I believe all extended sprites have the same hitbox. So sometimes you'll go straight through them and not take damage, and other times it will feel like you missed them, but you'll still get hit. And Louis finishing up with World 3. So the level that Akisto's in here, it is an auto-scroller, so it'll be, losing cape where he did wasn't a big deal. There is a cape in this level, which he'll be getting. So, it's one of the best places to lose cape, really, because you're not losing much time from it. Obviously, it's ideal to keep it all, but, better to get your power-ups back in an auto-scroller than have to waste time in a normal level. The only real time loss in this level he'll have is from the power-up transitions. And what Louis is going to be going for here, not in this level, sorry, in the next level. This level, you can actually just hold right, run, and jump, and you'll, if you've got Yoshi and Cape, these swords line up perfectly. And then there's Yoshi Wings, one of the few blocks that actually have natural Yoshi Wings in the game. We'll be seeing a lot more glitched Yoshi Wings, you might say, than the natural ones throughout the run. Louis going into Cookie Mountain, he's going to be trying to spawn a Koopa Kid boss here, but it will be invisible. Hopefully he'll get it. Essentially, it's sprite slot manipulation to make one of these sliding blue Koopas stunned, and then when you spit it out, there we go, so that glitchy sprite there is the stunned sliding blue Koopa, and then it spawns a Koopa Kid boss, which was invisible, because it wasn't initialized properly. But the same way as we saw with Morton in World 2, you can fire fireballs at it and kill him to beat the level. In the case of the glitched boss spawns, it is faster to do 12 fireballs than 2 fireballs and a jump, because for whatever reason, 2 fireballs and a jump, it takes a long time for the level to, it takes longer for the level to fade out. And yeah, we saw that Louis didn't go into Castle 4 and go through Forest of Illusion. He's going to be going back now for the secret exit of this, going through Soda Lake, Star World, Special World, and then he'll be back in World 1. And he'll be clearing up some of the stuff that he missed earlier. And Akisto finishing up with Butterbridge 2. Which he will now be going into Forest of Illusion, which Louis skipped out of. So there's a couple different routes through the Soda Lake level that Louis is in now. Swimming through the middle of the level is more difficult, but is faster. You can swim underneath the whole level, because the kill plane is a block or two lower than the bottom of the level. So we've seen that Akisto switched to fire here. Some people do this room with cape. It is a bit faster to do it with cape, but not by a massive amount, so it is just preference. They want to be fire for the Ludwig fight anyway. Ludwig is slightly different to Morton in that he has this cape spinning, shell spinning animation. But because he used 2 fireballs and a stomp to kill him, it was fine and he killed him instantly. If he didn't have fire there, he would have had to do a cycle skip, which, would mean it's slightly faster than casual, but he would have still had to sit through like a 14-second like animation of Ludwig going back and forth in his shell. So Star World can be pretty confusing. The majority of the normal exits here take you back exactly where you just came from. So you need the secret exit to progress. But we'll be getting both exits along the way because that's what this category is. There is a couple of different routes through this. Like, it doesn't matter which exit of Star World 3 you get first, they're the same. But because Louis took the P-switch through the gold tape, he has a cape in his reserve now instead of a fire flower. And he'll be using that in Star World 5 in a bit. Akisto going through Forest of Illusion 1. I believe he'll be going for wings here. So there's a P-switch, a P-balloon, sorry, in a block, and you have to duplicate that to the side over a ledge. Works basically the same way as the glitch in Vanilla Dome 1 worked, but you have to have the shell with momentum. You have to catch it with momentum to the right because you're duping it to the left over a pit. You're closer to it. It's a bit complicated, but basically that dupe is a lot more difficult than a lot of the other dupes in the run. He didn't get it, so he just abandoned it and went for the normal exit straight away because that doesn't save nearly as much time as the one in World 2. A lot of Star World is pretty basic on Louis' screen. It's just fly over, fly under. You can see us flying under, and that's so that you can't say we fly over everything. No, it's the same reason I explained in the middle of World 2. If you start your flying sooner, then you can get into the faster flight speeds quicker. And so it's more optimal to fly under the level than over it. So Akisto did the same clip that we saw Louis do in Vanilla Dome 3 with Yoshi to get into the wall, and then again grabbing the throw block will make you go twice as fast. And that's why he gets into this. Like, these clips, if you do everything perfectly, there's still a 1 in 4 chance that you'll get kicked out of the wall instead of clipping into it. And that's based on the level timer, I believe. Or it might be, no. I think it's the level timer. But it's unseeable to the player, so it's essentially luck. Star World 1 that we see Louis in here. You'll see him zipping through these turn blocks, or hopefully. There can only be 4 turn blocks spinning at once, and if you make a new one spin, the oldest ones that were spinning will stop. I believe that's not necessarily true, but for the most part it is. That the oldest one spinning stops spinning. And so if you're inside those blocks when they stop spinning, you'll get pushed down and to the left. And because you're spinning your cape, you kind of get a chain reaction of that and zip straight down. Akisto lost Yoshi there, which is unfortunate, but he should be able to get him back, not too badly. And again, this blue Yoshi, all we need it for is to swim twice as quickly. So, you may or may not know that in this level that Akisto's in, you can go over the wall. So instead of going right to the end of the room and then going back through some other rooms to get to it, he's just flying over that wall there, and then he's going to get to these doors. The door that he just passed will be his next exit in this level, but for now he's grabbing this one. Oh! There's some swag from Louis that I haven't seen before. So if you spin your cape as you're passing a gold tape, the cape hitbox stays at the gold tape even though Mario walks away from it. And he spun it so that the 1-up like bounced off of it as it came down. That was really cool. I haven't seen that before. So seeing Louis get those zips that I talked about before here makes the level much quicker, but they are a real pain. And Akisto is going to have to be careful not to clip back in bounds when he grabs this throw block there. And the throw block does have a timer where it'll run out. For a TAS, it is possible to make the timer last longer. by dropping it and re-grabbing it at the right time, but for RTA we just then switch to the key. So most people where Louie is now would have a blue Yoshi, which means if they have something in their mouth, he would have wings. But Louie is going for a slightly faster strat, where he grabs the yellow Yoshi. And that's why he switched and grabbed the cape in Cell 3. But then he grabbed this mushroom anyway to override it. It doesn't really make a difference. The yellow Yoshi in the next level will spit up the shell that he drops because it stomps the floor. It's not a big time save, but it is one. So here is one where we're going to see multiple dupes, and you see him duping the same block over and over again, and that's because of what I talked about with Zips, that you can only have 4 spinning at once. He did that so that he didn't have to wait for that top block to stop spinning. It just instantly stopped because he'd got 4 on the same tile and then spun them. So he got that much quicker, and it just works. The dragon coin was in the right position there for it to be wings straight away. And same as with FOI1 here, we've got a P-balloon block. He lodged it between the block and the pipe here. And if you scroll, you can change where it's jiggling back and forth and get wings. The wings count as the normal exit, which is why they can do it in Special World here. This level that Louis is in is one of the other few levels. There's only 3 I can think of that you would go through in the main route anyway. There might be some in random sub-levels that you never see in speedruns, but they're wings. Actually, no, I don't think wings could work in a sub-level. Yeah, there's not many natural wing blocks in the game. That's one of them. And I believe he'll be going for a similar glitch to what we saw in Cookie Mountain here. But instead of spawning an invisible Koopa Kid boss, he'll be spawning an invisible Reznor. Looks good so far. And there we go. So the timer for whether... Like, the timer for Yoshi's tongue sticking out is the same used to tell the game whether Reznor's killed or not. So sticking out his tongue when Reznor is in slot 7, sprite slot 7, will kill Reznor and end the level instantly. But again, it was a lot of sprite slot manipulation to try and get a stunned fish, a stunned horizontal swimming fish into spawning a Reznor. And again here, like, this is where a lot of the fun happens. In Sliding Blue Koopa, you can make it spawn a Koopa Kid boss and end the level. So yeah, Louis getting all of the fun here. Got the triple boss kill. It's really interesting if you look into how these things work. There is some documentation and some good videos about how they work, which I highly recommend looking out for. There's a video on the Retro Game Mechanics Explained YouTube channel that talks about how ways to end levels early in Super Mario World. They go into much more detail than I am here, but it's really interesting to check out. So Akisto in an auto-scroller, Louis in a flyover. The level that Louis is in there, Mondo, there's a lot of stuff going on, so it can be pretty laggy, which can screw up your cape pumps sometimes. But for the most part, it's not a big problem. There is a couple of things you can do to manipulate how much lag there is. Let's try and like avoid some of it. Akisto unfortunately lost his cape there, but I don't think it's the worst part to do that again. He seems to be getting a relatively good look for when he's losing it. There are definitely worse places you could lose your cape. So after all that glitching and tricking around in Special, Louis finally gets some flyovers. Akisto grabbing this cape here, I'm surprised he went for that one actually, because you have to wait for a while for the feather to drop down. But I guess he just wanted to grab it as soon as he could. Yeah, it's basically preference. Louis' route is faster, but Akisto's route gets luck-based stuff out of the way sooner. So we can't tell for sure yet how far apart they are, but I feel like Louis made less mistakes. So I think Louis is ahead. Oh yeah, for sure, Louis is ahead now. I think these two routes only properly link up again when they're out of Forest of Illusion. But you see Louis flying here, and that's why we go... like in a bit we'll be going back into World 1, and the reason we do it after Special World is because you have this cape. Which, like I said before, when you're flying, you move faster on average than when you're running. Final 2 exits sync up? Really? Oh, I guess he goes through Star Special at a different time as well. I didn't think about that. So yeah, the routes are pretty different, but for the most part, Louis is ahead now. But it's just one of the things that shows off. There's many ways to play this game. There's a lot of the categories also have a no cape variant. There's one level that you can't get without glitches that are banned without cape, and so the full exit for no cape is 95, and that's the one that leads to top secret area. Is the one you can't get. If you were to glitch an orb into your item box, that will beat the level and take you through that exit, but that glitch is banned because it... well, I'm not going to get into it. So Louis managing his flight timer there to fly out through that corridor as well, and flying through the corridors there is not trivial. You've got not a lot of space to work with, and some pretty expert flying from Akisto there as well in Roy's Castle. The flight through that castle is one thing that can trip up runners when they're first learning it. And if you're wondering what a couple guys are talking about in chat with Yumps, it's purely swag, it doesn't save any time, but if you jump on the frame you land on one of the big Switch Palace switches, you can jump off of it. So Louis just clearing up the rest of World 2 that he didn't do earlier now. And for a lot of levels that are purely flyover levels, you can see that Louis has a 362 there. A lot of the levels are about the same length, and so a 63 can tell you in a lot of levels that you had a good flight speed from the beginning, or fairly close to the beginning. So a 62 isn't bad. And all there is to do in this auto-scroller is to just swag out. Louis put that Buzzy Beetle to sleep in its cradle. You know corners? They don't exist. Drop stuff up there. Yeah, top secret area doesn't have an exit. It's just a room for bonus stuff. It is technically possible to use glitches to quote-unquote beat the exit in a way that when you go into it you could start select out, but it doesn't give you an event, and so it doesn't count as an exit. So even in the extra category that does glitched exits, so you get higher than 96, you can get unintended exits. Even in that, top secret area isn't a thing because it doesn't count internally. So he's going to be going up here, grabbing this key, and doing green switch in a second. Yeah, the glitches still work on the American one. There's some of the more memory manipulation ones work slightly differently on the American version, but for the most part, everything's the same. It's just that, like I say here, this Switch Palace screen that Louis is on here, it takes about 3 seconds slower. It takes about 3 seconds longer before it fades out on the American one. And this save box here is slightly slower to zoom in and out than on the American one. So those add up over the run to about, I think it's 21.8 seconds, I want to say, on a 96 run. But that's the main reason that we use the Japanese version of the game. Yeah, the majority of glitches work on every version of this game. It's only a few precise ones that are messing about with memory that work differently. Oh, I was a bit scared with Akisto dive bombing at that slope there. In general, you want to avoid flying at slopes because, well, let's just say they can sometimes not be there. It's very easy to clip through those and die sometimes. The point of it that Akisto flew into was fine, really, but a bit higher and he might have been in trouble. And we see, again, Louis doing what I was talking about before with keeping his flight through a pipe, but also he was having to manipulate his P meter to be able to fly up to the pipe so that he could get in it early, without the cape and without the use of a sudden glitch. You would have to wait for the sandbar to push you up to the pipe. And Louis now just doing the last exit of World 2 that he missed out on at the start of the run. And then he'll be going back through the top area of Vanilla Dome and World 4 that we've seen Akisto do already. Akisto, meanwhile, is in Chocolate Island. The level he's in, each room that you go into, it's pretty confusing casually. It seems like the pipes take you to random places. You see he's spending a lot of time there grabbing coins and stuff. That's because the room that you go into through this pipe depends on how many coins you have. Nice number of coins, by the way. And then the next one is based on your in-game timer. And the one after that is based on how many dragon coins you've got, I believe. And he wants to wait until it's below 250 before he goes through this pipe to get the normal exit, otherwise he'll get the secret exit. So he's going to use that time to build up his P meter and get this flight through the pipe. Instant flight speed. And he wants to grab all of the dragon coins along the way. And I think he must have missed what? Question mark? Yeah, that level's I only know like the main level, the sub-levels that you go into in the speedrun. Like, there's a bunch of ones that you never see. Oh, does it count for your switches as well? Interesting. Oh, Louis not quite. He scraped to the there, so he didn't get above, but backed it up fine, didn't get hit on those red paracoopers. And yeah, we see this exit that Akisto just got, it just loops you in a, takes you in a loop back to the level you just did. It's Nintendo's way of trolling you. Saying, haha, you have to figure out the other exit. So we see that there's a few things different on this path that Louis is taking than it was with Akisto, and that's because he's beaten Special World, and it's pretty much all graphical. You know, there's the Koopas have Mario faces, the Piranha Plants are pumpkins. Some of the Koopas do change what color they are. I think red Koopas turn into blue ones, and green ones turn into yellow ones after Special. And so a couple of those colors walk a bit faster, so there's certain strats that you have to change slightly if you're doing the level before or after Special World, but for the most part it doesn't make a difference. This Choco Fort here from Akisto, brilliant. Perfect room 1. That's a really easy level to get snagged on some of those pencils. It's very difficult to do this level optimally, and Akisto is doing it beautifully. The hitbox is always the same. So one thing I didn't mention when Akisto was in this level that Louis did now, as he goes through the pipe at the end of the room, if he spins his cape, he can try to manipulate the camera into stopping a thwomp from spawning, which means he won't have to wait for it to fall. But again, that's based on the the frame parity that he entered the level with. So I believe it's still only 50-50 as to whether you can do it even if you do the inputs perfectly. So he didn't get it there, but that's what that spin was for. It was so that he wouldn't have to wait for that thwomp. And that level of Akisto's in there, I think is pretty cool. It's the only like diagonal level in the game. Oh, Louis taking a bit of damage though. Both of them took damage in that level. I think Akisto took it to the Resnor. But again, that's one of the best places you can lose your cape, because it doesn't take very long to get it back. And Akisto is going to be skipping a fair bit of the level here by going into this pipe. And hopefully going to get P-speed on these yellow blocks. Yeah. Looks like we're having a bit of trouble with Louis' feed at the moment. I know that he said his internet cut out a bit just before the run started, so that might have happened again. Hopefully he'll get that sorted soon. Meanwhile, we can take a look at Akisto's run and see that when you're flying in that cape state, you will just go into what we call a cape cancel, into that just spinning animation instead when you get hit, and you can use that pretty well to save a cycle on those like skewers. And again, with the this is one of the times where it's better to spin fly than do a normal flight, because you can manipulate your height a lot easier to get through that level. It's a pretty impressive level, I think. And again, it's one of the ones that's harder than it looks to do well. Oh, that was an evil spawn there. If he'd been a bit slow, those fireballs could have got in the way and hit him there. But with the Lemmy and Wendy fights, you can watch the bottoms of the pipes and their feet will flash briefly under which pipe they're going to be in. Okay, Louis back now. Oh. So it looks like Louis is setting up for a pipe fly in this level. You can save a tiny bit of time by getting saving your flight meter through this pipe, and then instead of having to just run and jump into the thing, you can fly into it. Akisto in the sunken ghost boat. Louis' time is probably off just because of his internet having played up. But we can use Akisto's. So those hits that Akisto took there were intentional, and it was to delay himself the perfect amount of time that this boo cloud will be in the right place. So you can use a couple of visual cues. His boo cloud is in the perfect position at the moment. Just after this dipped bit here, above these spikes where he is now, there's usually a boo ring, same as this one here. But because the boo cloud despawned when the boo ring spawned, I think the boo ring just doesn't spawn. And there's a lot of lag manipulation going into this falling room now, because usually it's pretty damn laggy. It seems like everyone has their own lag reduction in this level. Some people's are better than others. Some people will even manipulate their score, keep track of their score, and jump on certain enemies, avoid others, to try and make their score as little laggy as possible in that level, because that can add to it as well. And Louis having no trouble with Ludwig. So while it looks like Akisto's pretty far ahead, he does still have to go through Star World and Special World. So the difference isn't as big as it looks at the moment. But there's different routes in this level depending on whether you've got Cape or not, and whether you've got Yoshi or not as well. Which are pretty interesting, but that was pretty much a textbook Valley of Bowser one. 96 exit is all levels, yeah. Some levels, like the one Akisto's about to enter there, have a red dot, and that means that there's 2 ways to do it. We refer to the extra ones as a secret exit. 96 exit is all normal exits and secret exits. And a lot of the ghost houses as well have 2 exits. So again, Louis didn't get the wings that he was going for in this level, which Akisto didn't get either. Which, again, it's difficult because you have to manipulate the shell's momentum, and you're doing it over a pit, and it's luck-based, so not super surprised that he didn't get it. Yeah, I believe Louis is ahead, but it's difficult to say exactly how far apart they are because they have very different routes. The difference is not anywhere near as big as it looks, though, because Akisto still has to go through Star and Special World. So Louis getting that Yoshi clip perfectly there. You need to manipulate Yoshi's subpixel properly to keep your chances of clipping in out of bounds as high as possible. But as I said, when Akisto was doing it, even manipulating your subpixel perfectly, there's still a 1 in 4 chance that you'll just get kicked out. The game will say nope, and you'll have to try again. Luckily, your subpixel is still fine if that happens. You can just try it again, and your subpixel is perfectly fine. But if Yoshi falls and starts bouncing on the ground, you've got no idea what it is, and you just have to keep trying. Got a nice jump there from Louis. Like I said before, if you jump on the frame you land on that Switch Palace switch, we call it a yump. Doesn't save any time, it's just swag. And in fact, if you try to do it but jump too early and you have a flight meter left, you can, go up again and lose a bit of time. So some people opt out of it because, it's just swag, but always nice to see. Akisto going for the other exit of the ghost house. And he'll be jumping in this corridor here, so that, again, he can keep his flight through this door. And it is actually possible to clip through the ceiling here, where Louis is. It's just insanely difficult, and you use up one of your power-ups to do it as well, I believe. Yeah. So it's not, nobody really does it in 96 exit unless it's a dead run. Louis does still have world record, yeah. He's currently the only person with a 121. Akisto has held the world record in the past. They're both top 5. Yeah, at the moment, Louis has the #1 position. The level that Akisto's entering now is the only level that you can't get the secret exit without Yoshi. You need Yoshi to get to stick his tongue through the wall at the end to grab the key in this level. The TAS can do it without, but you're not going to see that done RTA. Louis is not on 121 pace, no. It would be pretty damn insane if we saw a 121 or even a 122 in a race. They're both pretty damn good times. So yeah, we saw Akisto grab that key like I was saying, and in the when he comes back later to do the normal exit, he'll not need the Yoshi, so he'll just fly through the end of it. But like I say, Akisto is now going to go through Star World and Special World that Louis did about 20 minutes or so ago. I think a bit over 20 minutes ago. He's going through there now, finishing up stuff that he missed out earlier. Yeah, a lot of stuff in this game is named after runners, whether it's a strat that they came up with or a clip that they're particularly good at or bad at. Akisto having a little bit of trouble with the zips there. Oh, welcome to Twitch. Glad you found this channel. Both of these guys are brilliant as well if you want to give those a follow. They do this game fast. Yeah, not a whole lot to talk about that's new now, because everything that Louis is doing, we've seen Akisto do. Everything Akisto is doing, we've seen Louis do. But anything big coming up, I'll try and explain again for if anybody wasn't here before, or... So yeah, Akisto, for the first half of this level, for the first run through of the level, just needs Yoshi to swim faster. You swim twice as fast with an item. On the second pass through, you want to keep him to feed him your power-up. You can feed Yoshi a bunch of power-ups, or just a bunch of enemies, sorry, or just a power-up, and he'll grow up. A little tip, don't fall down the hole at the end of that room Louis in there. And the level Louis in now, I didn't mention it when Akisto was going through Forest Evolution, but the background is scrolling twice as fast because you're supposed to be standing on the green platforms, and so they go slower than it feels, and the background scrolls so that it looks like you're going faster. But because he built up his P speeds at the start of the level and started flying, he's also moving as well as the background moving, so it's makes some people feel a bit sick. But if he was to just wait on those grey platforms, it takes quite a bit longer. And these Pop-Tarts, we name all the stuff after food, don't ask me why. I mean, the levels themselves are named after food. But yeah, these Pop-Tarts, as I'll say, only have collision on the bottom. So if you're flying and you go into the side, or even if you're they just squish you up against the side of the wall, you won't take damage, you'll just go through the middle of it. Yeah, the route that Akisto's on, we call the Akisto route because he's pretty much the only person that does it. It is a bit slower, but it's what he prefers and it's what he's used to, so... And like I say, it works for him. He's had world records with that route, so... Akisto going for these dupes that we saw Louis doing earlier. Also gets the quad dupe. Nice to see. So yeah, Akisto going through special. I'll try and explain the other stuff again. He's going to be grabbing spring, dropping it between the block and the pipe here. Not the spring, he'll be using the P-switch, sorry. And it jitters back and forth. And if you scroll the screen, it kind of pauses and then carries on jittering back and forth. And it moves in the direction it was moving. So he didn't actually need to there. He got a factory and grab the wings. Okay. Usually it just jitters back and forth. And you have to scroll the screen to manipulate where it is to try and make it move into the thing. And the level he's in now just has natural wings. But in the levels afterwards, he'll be manipulating sprites and sprite slots, and he will be performing quite a few glitches in succession to essentially get a sprite. So what he's going to be doing in the next level, I believe he goes for it, will be trying to get a fish both in and not in Yoshi's mouth at the same time, technically. And then... Okay, no, he's not going for it. Never mind then. But he'll be going for the one in the next level. Or not? Interesting. Louis is in the lead at the moment, I believe. He has no flower. I was expecting him to grab one in Awesome. But he didn't. But anyway, so Louis ended the level early in these levels, and we can see Akisto doing it as what would be a backup if you missed it, or if you just haven't learned those strats yet, this is what you'd be doing. Louis had a bit of internet trouble, which is why his time is off. But yeah, basically ignore the stuff I was talking about with sprite slots, because Akisto didn't end up going for it. So one thing I didn't mention when Akisto was going through Chocolate Island as well, you'll see Louis, he's spin flying now so that he can get his flight through the cannon in a second. And I think he just, the stream paused a bit, but I think he trips off the end of the ledge, so he didn't get it. But usually you spin fly for the start of the level and try and keep your flight through the cannon, because the cannon spits you out a lot faster than your normal max flight speed, and you can save a little bit of time through that, so it's worth having the slower flight at the start of the level to have the much faster one at the beginning. At the end, sorry. Like in English. Ooh, Akisto kind of scraped against that cement block there, but he's fine. Oh yeah, the coins in this level that Akisto's in say "You are super player," That was fixed in the American version of the game to say you are a super player. They missed out the A in the Japanese version. The level isn't longer to fit in the extra word. They just moved some of the coins to the right a bit more. That's one of the other differences between the versions. So Akisto is now going to be finishing up with the rest of World 1 and 2 that he didn't do earlier, while Louis is making progress with Chocolate Island. Yes, I believe that's right, actually. Either way, they shifted the coins to fit room. The level's not longer. So, in the level Louis is in now, these chucks running can... they take like the same sound channel as your cape pump sound effects or something to that effect. So when they're running, you can either hear the run and not your cape pumps, or you can sometimes hear your cape pumps and not the chucks running. And like I say, usually you can't hear your cape pumps and it can throw you off sometimes. So you got to be able to have that rhythm without hearing it. And like I said before, this Chocolate Island 2, the rooms you go into are based on your coins, the timer, how many dragon coins you've got, stuff like that. So he's going to be grabbing at least 21 coins in this first room. And you'll see that they wait as well, because you have to wait for the timer when you're going through the through one of the rooms anyway. They wait until the game timer just ticks down, because when you go through a pipe, the game timer at the top resets to the start of that game second. And so if you were to go through the pipe at the end of a game second, then you're going to have to wait essentially a whole nother game second for it to tick down. And that would waste a little bit of time when you're trying to wait for the game time to get below 250. So they delay a little bit to go through right at the start and not waste time. Yeah, so you don't have to mash out of the intro cutscene on the Japanese version. It automatically switches out. And the save boxes come in and out a tiny bit faster. But the major difference in timing is that the switch palaces all fade out about 3 seconds faster on the Japanese version. Over this run, it comes to just over 20 seconds. I think it's about 21.8 or 20.8, something like that. But if you only have the American version, then you don't need to buy the Japanese version until you've got a top time, really. You're not going to be saving a crap ton of time, and it's not going to change your strats for the most part, which version you have. It's just if you are going to get one of the versions, this is assuming you're not on an emulator. If you're going to be getting one of the versions, then you might as well get the Japanese one. Or if you've got a top time, that might be your biggest time save to get the Japanese version. Yeah, there's a couple of different item placements as well that can be useful if you need them in the American one. Cloud, I believe... I don't know, I don't do it very often, but I believe that's not true anymore, that the US version's easier. I can't remember whether the current setup works on both, but definitely the beginner cloud method, I believe, works exactly the same on both. So Akisto is running back and forth here and getting flight, and he needs to keep moving back and forth to keep his P meter higher, so that he will have his lift off here, get into that pipe early, and then because he took off, he can keep his flight through there. Okay, Louis has just confirmed in Discord that he's had to switch to data because his internet's gone out again. He said he might switch back during the cutscene. So you might see it pause for a bit again. Both of those cape bumps were in sync there, that was nice. I want to say Louis is ahead now, but the routes are so different that it's hard to say how far apart they are. I don't see Akisto's route often enough to judge what pace he's on either, because he's pretty much the only person that does it. But he needs to go through this bottom route in World 4, and Louis needs to finish up the end of Chocolate Island and, you know, part of Bob that Valley Baza that Akisto's done. But yeah, like Akisto was saying in chat there, I'm pretty sure Louis is ahead. He seems to have made less mistakes. So yeah, Louis cape cancelling on that saw there to get under the first crusher, and that lets him run through the rest of them on the next cycle. If you were to just, if you were waiting outside, you pretty much have to wait in the middle and wait an extra cycle. If you're small, you can also pretty easily run under all of them, but so yeah, it looks like Louis' game feed is frozen again, but he might be coming back to us after the castle cutscene. Okay, so Akisto going into Vanilla Dome 3. I don't know whether he'll be going for the strat that I started talking about when Louis was going through it, but I'll be able to focus more since Louis is frozen at the moment. So want to get your flight meter up there so that you don't have to wait on these rafts, because they're pretty slow. And then once again going into a bonus room to skip a bit of the level. Oh, yeah, that's right. So Akisto, having beaten Special when he goes into this, he can grab this blue shell, and if done optimally, it's about the same as the fastest normal strat for this level. But because he has this blue shell now, he did take a bit of time grabbing it, but you can grab it pretty quickly as you're falling down optimally. He can fly and doesn't have to touch the rafts at all. Fortunately, he didn't get speed. But he's safe. So yeah, it took a bit of time to get through the end there, but no big deal. Akisto going for a slightly different strat there at the start. For the most part, it's going to be the same, but his bullet bills might be in a bit of a different position to what they were for Louis. Oh yeah, that's the other thing that happens after you beat Special. The bullet bills turn into these Pidgeot bills. Louis is not splicing. Louis is my boy. So again, seeing him spin at the start there to manipulate Magikoopa's positions. Textbook room 1. Okay, so here we have him back. Going into Vanilla Dome 2. Something you might not know playing this game, if you don't have Cape and you want Cape in this level, in this room that Louis going into now, at the top left, just off screen, there's a Cape block. So if you go up to the top left of that level, of that room, and jump, you'll hit a Cape block, you wait for the feather to fall down, and you can grab a Cape. It's pretty slow in speedruns, but if you're playing the game casually, you might want to know that. And that fireball in this room that Akisto's in is always, you know, it flies around in the same pattern, so you can pretty much always know where to be. And Akisto got the fast third kill there, so when you get the third hit on Lemmy, he does fall from the top of the pipe through down to the lava. And so because Akisto got his final hit on the third, he got his final hit on the lowest of the pipes. Lemmy didn't have to fall as far before he died. Louis going for what we call Sexy Slide here. We stole that name from Super Mario Bros. 3. Didn't quite get the sexy one, but got through and got the key. That's what's important. Now we can see Akisto going for the hardest level in the run. Hold 3 buttons, don't even need to look at the screen. And then grab wings. So again, like I said with Yoshi's Island 3, where the brown platform is pushing you to the right, these carrot top platforms also move right when you're standing on them. So, you know, optimally you're going to try and be running on as many of those as possible as you're flying through the level. They'll push you slightly further ahead. So their routes are pretty much synced up now, for the most part. Akisto does have this exit that Louis is doing now, but I think after that they're pretty much synced. Somehow we've actually got less delay on Louis than Akisto now. Just noticed. I guess since his stream was refreshed more recently because of his internet problems. So, like I say, after this level, you don't really need Yoshi anymore. He just gets in your way. So towards the end of this level, we'll see him fall into the lava and die. Akisto's swimming through that sweet, sweet soda lake. And the level that Louis is in now, Larry's Castle. Whoa, watch it, Louis. Room 2 of this is pretty difficult to get. Well, door that was up there and this door down here take you to the same place. He just didn't quite make the platform. There's a couple different strats that people go for in this room. Some of them are faster than others, but some of them are more consistent. It's basically preference which you're going to go for. But Magic Cooper and all these fireballs and pencils, they really like to get in the way and halt your progress. So, not a brilliant room 2 there, but he got through it fine, and there's that green block at the end anyway to get your cape back if you lose it. And then Larry is basically the same as Iggy, but there's some firewalls. Just jump on him and get him into the lava. So yeah, Louis just has 2 more now, and Bowser's Castle doesn't actually count as yeah. So they're in sync again now, as Silver Star's saying in chat. Bowser's Castle doesn't actually count as an exit. Like if you were to beat Valley of Bowser and the Valley of Bowser fort, and then go and beat different. Oh no, that saves anyway, obviously. So if you were to reset after Valley Fort, it would say 96 on your title screen, but to complete this category, you have to beat Bowser. You know, it's who's going to say, yeah, that's a 100% speedrun of the game, or quote-unquote 100%, if you beat all the levels and then don't beat the final boss. So we do. So even though it looked like they were half a game apart, not 10 minutes ago, you can see that they are pretty close now, because this is where the 2 routes come back together. And if ever you wondered what the secret exit to Valley of Bowser 2 is, you have to go back over there. You don't need cape. If you stand on the sandbar that moves up, you can jump over. But it's quicker with cape. Well, funnily enough, there is on the category extensions leaderboard, we do have a category where you do some glitched exits and get extra ones that weren't intended by the developers. And some of those do count towards your exit count. And that's another difference between the Japanese version and the American version, is that on the Japanese version, if you get those glitched exits, it does still count up on your title screen. It doesn't say like 100 if you get to that, it'd say A0 and then A1, A2. The way it works is that it just, you know, the units goes up to 9 and back to 0, and the tens column just increases each time. And the next character, it's not hexadecimal, but the next character in the graphics after 9 is A, so that's why that happens. But anyway, we saw Louis take a bit of damage in the fort there. So we're not going to be seeing an optimal Bowser fight, but hopefully we will on Akisto's screen when he gets there. So this Bowser fight will be a little slower than it could have been. But you can still get some skips in without cape. So, I'll try and explain this Bowser fight. We're going to see Louis not hitting Bowser straight away with the second Koopa. He wants him to throw out some more. Oh, got the hit a bit too early. Bowser would have thrown out another Mecha Koopa, and then he could have carried one over to the next phase to get some skips in. Unfortunately, he hit Bowser just as he was about to throw out the Mecha Koopas, but before he actually did. So he's not going to have the Koopa for those skips. What he would have been going for is, we'll see that Bowser drops 2 bowling balls. If you were to hit Bowser in this phase, he will only drop 1 of the bowling balls, which we aptly call ball skip. So it'll give Akisto a bit of a chance to catch up. At this point, Louis pretty much won. But if something were to happen and he died, then he very well could, Akisto very well could take the lead. But either way, both of these runs are still pretty good, especially for a race. So yeah, Louis not having the best Bowser fight, but still quite a bit more ahead into it than Akisto is. Akisto does have Cape though, so we'll be able to see Akisto hopefully doing the skips optimally. And this is why Cape is effective, because you can land down on Bowser just as he's throwing them out, and you don't have to wait for them to fall down and then throw them back up. But Louis does have a Mecha Koopa going into the third phase, so Bowser bounces around a bunch before throwing out these balls. And I believe it's 5 bounces instead of 8 if you hit him. So that's why you want a Mecha Koopa going into this phase. And now Louis is done. So congrats to Louis, 1:24.31 by his timer. It's not a bad time, to be honest. I wouldn't complain with that. That's faster than my PB. I'm sure Louis will be a bit annoyed, but that's just because he's insanely good at this game. So Akisto getting a good Bowser fight here. You can see what Louis probably would have done if he'd got the cape. And there's that hit. So the last skip is basically the same without Cape. And there it is from Akisto. So Louis got a mid 124, Akisto got a mid 125. Neither of which are bad runs. Congrats to the both of them. That was a pretty good race. Interesting that we managed to that we could get to see 2 different routes as well, so could try and focus on explaining 2 things at once. But you get, because of the 2 different routes there, if you missed something the first time, you could try and spot it the second. But I don't believe these guys are going to be coming in to talk about the run. Louis doesn't use mic. I don't think Akisto will. He doesn't usually. He's welcome to if he wants, but I don't think these guys are going to be coming in to talk about the race. But I'll say overall, great race, and I think you'll agree that was a really entertaining race to see. So thanks to SpeedGaming for having us all on this, getting to show off this game. And thanks to both Akisto and Louis for putting on these good runs for us. But yeah, I think otherwise that's it from us, and we'll see you guys when we see you. Thanks.